I'm standing in the parking lot of Riverside Mental Health Clinic with a manila envelope in my hands, watching the Monday morning staff arrive through the glass doors. My heart is pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat. Inside this envelope are printed screenshots, bank statements, and time-stamped photos that will destroy Dr. Rebecca Morrison's career. She deserves it. 3 months ago, she was the person I trusted most in the world, the therapist who helped me piece my life back together after my divorce. Now, she's the woman who's been sleeping with my sister behind my husband's back, using everything I told her in confidence to manipulate my entire family. You're probably thinking I'm the crazy one here. Maybe I am. But let me tell you how a licensed therapist violated every ethical boundary imaginable, and why I had no choice but to make sure everyone knew the truth. My name is Jenna, and 6 months ago, I was a mess. My marriage to David had just imploded after 12 years. We'd grown apart, or at least that's what he said when he asked for the divorce. No affair, no big fight, just indifference. The kind that hurts worse than hatred. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I'd sit in my apartment, the cramped one-bedroom I'd moved into after leaving our house, and just stare at the walls. My younger sister, Bethany, was the one who insisted I get help. "Jenna, you can't keep doing this to yourself," she'd said, sitting on my couch with that concerned look she'd perfected. "I found this therapist, Dr. Morrison. She's supposed to be amazing. Please, just try one session." Bethany had always been the responsible one, despite being 4 years younger. While I'd rushed into marriage right after college, she'd focused on her career in pharmaceutical sales, stayed single, stayed focused. I trusted her judgment completely. So I made the appointment. Dr. Rebecca Morrison's office was in a beautiful historic building in downtown Portland, all exposed brick and large windows. She was younger than I expected, maybe late 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail and designer glasses that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Jenna, I'm so glad you're here," she said warmly, gesturing to a comfortable leather chair. "Taking this step is brave." Over the next 2 months, Dr. Morrison became my lifeline. Twice a week, I'd pour out everything. My guilt over the divorce, my fears about starting over at 36, my complicated relationship with Bethany, who I loved but sometimes resented for having her life so together. I told her about David, about how we'd met at a college party, about the trip to Napa Valley where he proposed, about the house we'd bought in the suburbs that I'd had to walk away from. I told her things I'd never told anyone. She was professional, insightful, and seemed genuinely invested in my healing. She never judged me when I admitted that part of me still loved David, or when I confessed that sometimes I fantasized about him begging me to come back. "Your feelings are valid," she'd say. "Divorce is a death, the death of a future you'd imagined. It's okay to grieve." I started to feel better. Not great, but functional. I went back to work at the marketing firm where I was a junior creative director. I started seeing friends again. I even went on a terrible first date that Dr. Morrison and I laughed about in our next session. Before we go any further, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments. I love knowing where my stories are reaching. Okay, back to how everything fell apart. It was a Tuesday evening in early October when things got weird. Bethany had invited me to dinner at her place, a gorgeous loft apartment in the Pearl District that overlooked the city. She'd been distant lately, canceling our usual weekend brunches and being vague about her schedule. "I've just been slammed at work," she'd said when I'd asked about it in our last session. Dr. Morrison had nodded thoughtfully. "How does it make you feel when Bethany pulls away?" she'd asked. "Abandoned, I guess. Like everyone leaves eventually." Now, sitting in Bethany's minimalist living room with its white furniture and abstract art, I noticed something on her coffee table. A book. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. "Since when do you read psychology books?" I asked, picking it up. Bethany's face did something strange, a flash of panic before smoothing into a smile. "Oh, just trying to understand trauma better. You know, for personal development." It was odd, but I let it go. We had a nice dinner, salmon and roasted vegetables, and she seemed more like herself. Until I mentioned Dr. Morrison. "She's been such a help," I said, sipping the expensive Pinot Noir Bethany had poured. "I don't know what I would have done without her these past couple months." Bethany's hand tightened around her wine glass. "That's great. I'm glad she's working out. You were right to recommend her. How did you find her again?" Just online reviews, I think. Or maybe someone at work mentioned her." She stood abruptly. "I'm going to get dessert." The conversation moved on, but something nagged at me. Bethany was a terrible liar, always had been. When we were kids and she'd break something or sneak candy, she'd get this exact same look, guilty and evasive. The following week, I had a session with Dr. Morrison. I mentioned the weird dinner with Bethany, how she'd seemed off. "Tell me more about your relationship with your sister," Dr. Morrison said, leaning forward slightly. "You've mentioned feeling competitive with her. I don't know if competitive is the right word. She just has everything figured out, you know? Great job, great apartment, and she's never had a failed relationship because she's never been in a serious one. Meanwhile, I'm the disaster." "You're not a disaster, Jenna." Dr. Morrison's voice was soothing. "But I wonder if there's some resentment there. Has Bethany ever done anything that made you feel betrayed?" The question felt loaded somehow, but I answered honestly. "Not really. She's always been there for me. Even during the divorce, she was the only one who didn't take David's side." Dr. Morrison made a note in her pad. "Interesting. And David, do you still have contact with him?" "No. Clean break, remember? That's what you suggested." "Right. Of course." But there was something in her tone. Was it disappointment? The truth started unraveling on a Friday night 3 weeks later. I was supposed to meet Bethany for dinner, but she'd canceled last minute via text. Emergency at work. Rain check. I was already downtown, so I decided to grab dinner alone at this Italian place near Pioneer Square. I'd just been seated when I saw them. Bethany and Dr. Morrison. They were at a corner table, tucked away, sitting close. Too close for colleagues or casual acquaintances. As I watched, frozen in the restaurant doorway, Dr. Morrison reached across the table and took Bethany's hand. Not a friendly pat. She held it, her thumb stroking across my sister's knuckles in a gesture that was unmistakably intimate. Then Bethany leaned in and kissed her. My therapist. My sister. Kissing in a restaurant like they were a couple. I left before they saw me, my mind racing. How long had this been going on? More importantly, had it started before or after I became Dr. Morrison's patient? I drove home in a daze and did what any rational person would do. I spiraled. I paced my apartment. I tried to make sense of it. Maybe they'd just started dating. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe. No. Nothing about this was innocent. If you're as shocked as I was, hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is about to get so much worse. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. I didn't sleep that night. By dawn, I'd decided to confront Bethany directly. I showed up at her apartment at 7 a.m., and from the look on her face when she opened the door, she knew exactly why I was there. "Jenna, how long?" I pushed past her into the apartment. "How long have you been sleeping with my therapist?" Bethany closed the door, her face crumbling. "I wanted to tell you. God, I wanted to tell you so many times." "How long?" She sat on the couch, pulling a throw pillow into her lap like a shield. "For months. We met at a fundraiser for mental health awareness. We just connected. I didn't know she was a therapist, and she didn't know I was your sister." "Not at first." "Not at first? When did you figure it out?" Bethany wouldn't meet my eyes. "After your second session with her. I mentioned my sister was seeing a therapist named Dr. Morrison, and Rebecca went pale. We realized what had happened." "Rebecca." She called her Rebecca. "So you both knew. For 2 months you both knew, and neither of you told me. Do you have any idea how unethical this is? She's been treating me while sleeping with my sister." "She wanted to refer you to someone else," Bethany said quickly. "But I begged her not to. You were doing so well, and I was afraid if she suddenly dropped you, it would destroy your progress. We thought we could manage it." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Manage it? She's been asking me intimate questions about you, Bethany. About our relationship, about my feelings toward you. She's been mining our sessions for information about you while pretending to be my therapist. Don't you see how insane that is?" I know it's bad." Tears were streaming down Bethany's face. "But Jenna, I love her. I've never felt this way about anyone, and I don't care." The words came out cold and flat. "I don't care about your feelings right now. You both violated my trust in the worst possible way." I left before I said something I couldn't take back. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Over the next week, I started digging. I called the Oregon Board of Licensed Professional Counselors and asked hypothetical questions about ethical violations. I learned that what Dr. Morrison had done, maintaining a therapeutic relationship with someone while having a romantic relationship with their family member, was a clear violation of ethical codes. Then I started documenting everything. I requested copies of my therapy records, which Dr. Morrison's office had to provide by law. I went through my bank statements and marked every payment I'd made for sessions that occurred after she and Bethany started dating. I scrolled through my texts with Bethany, screenshotting every time she'd canceled plans, dates that I cross-referenced with Dr. Morrison's social media. That's when I found the photos. Dr. Morrison's Instagram was public, though she didn't post much. But her girlfriend's account, tagged in several photos, was open. Her girlfriend, some woman named Jessica with blonde hair and a bright smile. I felt sick. Was Dr. Morrison cheating on this Jessica with my sister? Or had they broken up? I sent Jessica a message. Hi, I don't know if you remember me, but I think we met at a fundraiser a few months ago. I was hoping to get in touch with Rebecca Morrison. Is she still at Riverside Clinic? Jessica responded within an hour. Yes, she is. We're actually engaged now. Smiling face with smiling eyes. The fundraiser was where we celebrated our 2-year anniversary. Small world. Engaged. Dr. Morrison was engaged to Jessica and sleeping with my sister. This wasn't just an ethical violation. This was a pattern of deception. I sat in my apartment, staring at Jessica's message, and something hardened inside me. Dr. Morrison had used her position of power to manipulate me, to gather information about my sister, all while lying to everyone in her life. She'd made a mockery of the therapeutic relationship, of the trust I'd placed in her. And Bethany, God, Bethany had let it happen. Had facilitated it. They both needed to face consequences. I started with Jessica. I messaged her. I need to talk to you about something important regarding Rebecca. Can we meet for coffee? We met the next day at a Starbucks in Beaverton. Jessica was sweet, genuine, and completely blindsided when I showed her the photos I'd taken of Bethany and Dr. Morrison at the restaurant. When I explained the timeline, showed her the evidence I'd compiled, she went white. I don't understand. Rebecca wouldn't. But even as she said it, I could see the recognition in her eyes. The late nights Dr. Morrison had explained away. The emergency sessions with patients. The phone calls she'd taken in another room. I'm so sorry, I told Jessica. You deserve to know the truth. She left in tears, but not before thanking me. I would have married her, she whispered. I would have married someone capable of this. Next, I filed a formal complaint with the Oregon Board of Licensed Professional Counselors. I detailed everything. The dates of my sessions, when Dr. Morrison and Bethany's relationship began, the continued treatment despite the conflict of interest. I included copies of my therapy records, bank statements, and affidavits from mutual friends confirming the relationship. But I wasn't done. The clinic where Dr. Morrison worked, Riverside Mental Health, had 5 other therapists, 2 psychiatrists, and a small administrative staff. They prided themselves on their ethical practices. Their website prominently featured their commitment to professional standards and client care. I wondered if they knew what kind of person they employed. I created a comprehensive dossier. Printed copies of everything I'd compiled, organized with tabs and highlighted sections. I made 10 copies. Then, on a Monday morning, I drove to the clinic before it opened. I'd called ahead, scheduling fake consultations with 3 different therapists under different names, ensuring I'd be seen going in and out of the building multiple times. I wanted witnesses. I wanted attention. The first envelope went to the clinic director, Dr. James Patterson. I handed it directly to him during what I'd scheduled as a consultation about services. Dr. Patterson, my name is Jenna, and I'm a former patient of Dr. Rebecca Morrison. I need you to look at this immediately. He was confused but took the envelope. I watched his face change as he opened it and started reading. These are serious allegations. They're not allegations. They're facts. Dates times evidence. Dr. Morrison violated multiple ethical codes while treating me. I've already filed a complaint with the licensing board, but I thought you should know that you have someone on staff who's willing to betray patient trust for a relationship. I left before he could respond, but not before placing envelopes on the desks of every other therapist in the clinic. The administrative staff found theirs in the break room. I even left one at the front desk with a note, for anyone concerned about ethical practices at this clinic. By the time Dr. Morrison arrived at 9 a.m., everyone knew. I wasn't there to see it, but Bethany told me later, after the dust settled and we'd begun the painful process of rebuilding our relationship, what happened that day. Dr. Morrison had walked into the clinic to find Dr. Patterson waiting, the dossier open on his desk. The other therapists had gathered, their own copies in hand. The administrative staff had alerted the clinic's legal counsel. Rebecca, we need to talk. Now. She tried to deny it at first, then minimize it. It's complicated, she'd said. The relationship with Bethany started before I knew the connection, and I was trying to. You were trying to what? You continued treating a patient while romantically involved with her sister. You violated HIPAA regulations, professional ethics, and the trust this clinic has built over 15 years. Dr. Morrison was suspended immediately, pending investigation. Within a week, she'd resigned rather than face termination. Her engagement to Jessica ended. The licensing board launched a formal investigation that would take months, but would likely result in disciplinary action, possibly suspension or revocation of her license. And me? I sat in my apartment that Monday afternoon, my phone buzzing with texts from Bethany that I wasn't ready to answer yet, and felt empty. Not victorious. Not satisfied. Just tired. I'd set out to expose the truth, to make sure Dr. Morrison faced consequences for her actions, and I'd succeeded. But the cost was high. My relationship with Bethany was shattered. I'd had to relive the trauma of the betrayal over and over again while compiling evidence. And I needed to find a new therapist, one I could actually trust, to help me process all of this. A few weeks later, Bethany and I finally talked. Really talked. I was selfish, she admitted, sitting across from me at a neutral location, a coffee shop neither of us frequented. I was so caught up in how I felt about Rebecca that I didn't think about what this was doing to you. I betrayed you, and I can't take that back. No, you can't. But I want to try to make it right. If you'll let me. It took time. Months of difficult conversations, of setting boundaries, of rebuilding trust piece by piece. We saw a family therapist together, thoroughly vetted, with impeccable ethics, who helped us navigate the damage. Bethany and Dr. Morrison's relationship didn't survive the exposure, which didn't surprise me. It had been built on deception and boundary violations from the start. Dr. Morrison moved to Seattle, reportedly working in a corporate wellness program where she wouldn't be treating individual patients. Jessica, the former fiancée, reached out to me months later. She thanked me again for telling her the truth, said she'd started therapy herself, with a different provider naturally, and was healing. I think about what you did, she said over the phone. Some people think you went too far, but I don't. You made sure someone who was abusing their power faced consequences. That takes courage. Did I go too far? I've asked myself that question 100 times. I destroyed Dr. Morrison's career and reputation. I made sure everyone at that clinic knew exactly what she'd done. Some might say I should have just filed my complaint with the licensing board and let the system handle it. That going to the clinic, making sure all her colleagues knew, was vindictive. Maybe it was. But here's what I know. Dr. Morrison was in a position of power. I was vulnerable, seeking help, and she used that vulnerability to gather information about someone she was sleeping with. She violated every ethical standard that's supposed to protect patients like me. And if I hadn't exposed her, how many other people might she have harmed? The licensing board's investigation is still ongoing, but preliminary findings suggest this wasn't her first ethical violation. Just the first one with this much documentation. Sometimes the system needs a push. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect the vulnerable need to be forced to see what's happening right under their noses. I'm not proud of the pain I caused. I'm not proud that my actions contributed to ending someone's career, even someone who deserved consequences. But I am proud that I stood up for myself, that I refused to be a silent victim. Bethany and I will never have the relationship we had before. That version of us died in Dr. Morrison's office, killed by secrets and betrayal. But we're building something new, something based on honesty and clear boundaries. As for me, I found a new therapist. Dr. Kim is older, has 30 years of experience, and came highly recommended by multiple sources I verified independently. It took me weeks to make the first appointment because the thought of trusting another therapist terrified me. But I went. And I'm healing. Slowly but genuinely this time. Because that's the thing they don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't just damage the relationship with the person who betrayed you. It damages your ability to trust anyone, including yourself. Rebuilding that takes time, patience, and the willingness to be vulnerable again despite knowing how badly it can hurt. So yes, I made sure everyone at Dr. Morrison's clinic knew exactly who she was. And I'd do it again. Because sometimes, making sure the truth comes out is the only way to start healing from it. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more true stories of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Drop a comment and let me know. Do you think I went too far, or was exposing Dr. Morrison justified? I read every comment. Until next time, remember, your trust is valuable. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting it.